Hi, I'm Rob Powell and we're here today at Blind Book for a demonstration farm open day involving Davis Silage Solutions, and we've been looking at big bale red clover against lucerne big bale red clover, some with additive, some with not, and we've tried it on calves that we bought from a week old, and we're rearing them right up through, fattening for Dovecot Park Waitrose.
Hello, my name's Dave Davis. I was 20 years as a scientist at IBERS, and then 4 years ago I set up my own company called Silage Solutions Limited. Since that time I've been doing still some research but a lot of knowledge transfer, and I travel quite broadly across Europe looking at some of the things they're doing on silage production across Europe. So we're here today at Rob Powell's looking at one of the Farming Connect trials that have been going on. Rob has grown some lucerne this year. He's also grown a mixed sward of red clover and grass. And in terms of silage production, we were looking at baled silage from both crops, with and without a Lactobacillus plantarum silage additive. Lactobacillus plantarum is a homofermentative inoculant, and it is essential with the legume crops, which are difficult to ensile, to use a homofermentative inoculant. So we were looking at the silage quality, and we were also then looking at the feeding of that silage to growing beef cattle. The trial took place in July and August. First and second cut lucerne were made and just second cut red clover. And to do the trial properly, we have to treat 3 bales, then the next 3 bales untreated, and between the different treatments we actually clean the baler out by having a discard bale so that we're not contaminating one treatment to the next. And it's important that we do that so that we get the same quality of forage, and the only difference between them is the additive or no additive. Bales were weighed so that we got a total yield before they were wrapped. They were wrapped at the stacking site, and that's absolutely essential with crops like lucerne, because lucerne is a thick stemmy crop. If you drop them out of the baler, it will puncture the wrap more easily, and you'll end up letting oxygen into the bale. So stacked at the wrapping site, and they were wrapped with 6 layers of wrap. Then during the winter period, starting in November through to this week, the feeding trial took place here at Blind Book. The silage was made in Trosverig, and the first thing we did was to have 4 groups of animals, 25 animals per group, and these were established at the start of the experiment so that they had the same mean live weight between the different groups, the pens, and the range of the minimum and the maximum was very similar across those groups. Then the silage was fed to them. They also had additional, I think it was half a kilo of soya, 2 kilos of whole oats, and 2 kilos of crimped wheat per head per day across those groups, and ad lib silage. The silage bales were weighed immediately pre-feeding after the wrap had come off, so that we had a bale weight difference there as well. And then they were fed, and during the growing period from the 7th of November till 27th of January they were weighed on 3 occasions. What the findings were that the lucerne, there was very little difference between inoculated and untreated. This is contrary to most of the research, and it could have been due to the fact that it was the second cut that we fed of the lucerne, and it was actually quite low in dry matter, 24% dry matter, which is borderline for a good fermentation. We'd recommend, or I'd recommend, somewhere between 32 and 37, but when you're making silage in September, it's not always easy to get the dry matter up, and because it's a wetter silage, that actually can limit intake because they're eating more water, because there's more water within the silage. So the lucerne grew least, well, I think it was 0.6 kilos a day on average across that feeding period. The red clover silage was on average 0.15 kilos per day better, and the inoculated red clover had the highest growth rates of 0.8 compared to 0.7 for the untreated, which was what we would have expected, that the inoculant, because it improves the fermentation, it improves the protein quality, and it can alter the intake as well, improve the intake, that we get a better growth rate. The reason why lucerne doesn't do so well as red clover is, even though they're very similar if made at the right time in terms of protein quality or content, they can be up to 18 to 20% crude protein content. The protein is more easily degraded in lucerne, so the animal doesn't actually utilise it as efficiently as in the red clover. We can overcome that by adding molasses into the ration, but that is an additional cost. One of the key reasons why Rob wanted to grow lucerne is he has a couple of very dry fields, and lucerne will yield better than red clover under dry conditions. So there is always a compromise between yield and protein quality and growth rate.